It was it's just hanging here.
Yeah, they do.
More than enough.
It's amazing. Yeah. Got a 2-year-old on a route. So Daisy, Donald, not stopping. Leave space for Daisy. Give them space. I'm like, what is this?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Can I have everybody who's up on the podium, please come to the podium? We have all the speakers come to the podium, please. We'll make a line back there.
Yeah. Like this same row, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Everybody ready at the back? Go and get started. All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Omar Ricci, O-M-A-R-R-I-C-C. I am one of the spokespersons here at the Islamic Center of Southern California. And let me just say at the outset, the reason why we're here today is because of the act of vandalism that took place this weekend on the early hours of Easter morning. And you see the photos here. You see we have the graffiti still present, and we'll be painting over that here shortly outside. It is an act of vandalism, but the reason why we're all here is because it's an act of hate as well. It is something that has caused some pain for our community. It is something that has saddened our community. And it's especially so difficult because this is happening right at the holiest time of the year for us as Muslims, the month of Ramadan, as you all know. And what's happened here over the weekend, what's been written on the pillars of the Islamic Center of Southern California comes in the context of what has happened also in Paterson, New Jersey, just over the weekend as well, where an imam was stabbed twice there during the morning prayers. The suspect was apprehended. It also comes in the context of what is happening in the Holy Land at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where for us as Muslims, we are seeing the images of worshipers being attacked and the mosque itself being desecrated. So all of this has come together, and it's caused certainly a lot of pain for us as a community. And it should also really be noted that the attack is not just on this center or what's happening in other parts of the world or the country, but it's an attack on our city as a whole. Our city is a very diverse community. It's a very rich community. And so we would like to think as part of that diversity, as part of the fabric of the community, that if part of the fabric tears, it also affects the rest of us. And so we'll be hearing more about that. So I want to ask our other spokesperson here, Ms. Hidab Tarifi, to come up and say a few words as well. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace and blessings be upon each and every one of you. I want to thank you all for being here. It is sad that we seem to come together more often to condemn such attacks on houses of worship and worshipers. But I'm grateful to God Almighty for the solidarity that we have here in the city of LA between our communities and, of course, the civic leadership and the interfaith leadership. We are here as one family. Sadly, we have haters, and haters will always continue to be haters. Satan is very active, but God Almighty is more powerful. And we are the agents of God to come together and glorify God as we stand in solidarity with one another. We here at the Islamic Center are always grateful to have the protection and the support, whether from the LAPD or from the Office of the Mayor. We're grateful to have our interfaith and civic leaders here with us today. And with no further ado, please allow me to welcome Chief Moore.
Good afternoon. I want to thank every member of the media that's here today for bringing attention to this crime that occurred at this house of worship, at this holy place, some 36 hours ago. I'm joined here today by faith leaders as well as the Islamic Center of Southern California leadership, but also MPAC, as well as Christian and faith of our Judaism friends and colleagues. This period we're in today, here in Los Angeles, this global city, is a period of reflection, of celebration. It's a period that in the Christian faith, we celebrated Easter Sunday yesterday. I attended church at the LA Mission. During that same period, this is the month of Ramadan. We know that the holy month of the rituals, the renewal, the promise for a better future, and the reflection that occurs during this period is also something that's observed during Passover. And all these faiths that exist, these systems that pull us together as a humanity, there's individuals out there that has been said that are trying to pull us apart. So I'm proud that this group is here today at a moment's notice to come and to be of a single voice, and that there will be no tolerance for any type of hate. And certainly that's what happens here will be addressed and will be pursued by this department. Yesterday morning at 12:45 a.m., by information gathered by a closed circuit television camera here, we know that a male individual, approximately 50 years of age, 5'9", about 180 pounds, came here and with some type of permanent marker, scribed hate messages, anti-Islamic messages on those columns. And then he left north away from the location. Our detectives from Major Crimes Division have been assigned to this case after the immediate response of Olympic Division patrol officers in the initial investigation. This was accelerated to our major crimes. I want to thank Deputy Chief Chow for being here, a man who was here actually for Friday prayers, just this past Friday. I want to thank Captain Ponce as well, the men and women of the Olympic area that are out looking for this individual. It is my belief, based on the limited information we have, that he's local, that he's an individual we believe that may be houseless. So we believe that he is in the area, and we will pursue that. We're continuing to work with businesses up and down this corridor and in the surrounding neighborhoods to gather video footage to further identify him. There has been a poster that has been released to the public, that image there that was taken from the closed circuit television from this facility. Before I introduce my next guest, I want to close by saying that we'll solve this crime. But the bigger challenge is solving this issue of hate. When we look at hate crimes across this city and across this country, we've seen a dramatic, unparalleled increase in the instances of hate and hate crimes since the onset of the pandemic and in the time after this pandemic. This is fueled by ignorance, frustration, people who are disenfranchised, but also an allowance that we are satisfied when we hear such remarks and they go unaddressed. So it's important for us that we not just solve this case of the Los Angeles Police Department, to bring some assurance of consequences to this congregation and to people of the Islamic faith, but to all Angelinos, that this is a city of inclusion, that this is a group of 4 million people who enjoy one of the most cosmopolitan areas of our existence. And with that comes an intolerance for any type of hate or expression otherwise. With that, I'd like to introduce Salam Almirati. Name? Oh, okay. Then let me introduce Deputy Mayor Brian Williams from Mayor Bass's office. And Brian, thank you for, as a Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, thank you for your continued support of our efforts here today.
Thank you, Chief. On behalf of the mayor, who unfortunately could not be here this afternoon, when she heard of this unfortunate incident, she immediately dispatched me and my staff here and also communicated with the chief the importance of being here to show solidarity. You know, while the pillars out front may have been defaced, the building is still standing strong. And it's standing strong because of the people who are in this room and the people who are behind me, who are going to walk arm in arm and stand together against this hate. Hate really has no place in our community. It simply doesn't. The mayor takes this very seriously, whether it was the shootings, unfortunately, that happened earlier this year, what's happened here today, and those instances in between. We're going to take a very strong and unmovable stance against these types of happenings. We're better together. We're stronger together. And we're better than what's happened last night or the other night in our community. And we're just not going to stand for it. So the mayor is behind you 100%. The city family is behind you 100%. We're going to stand together to defeat this evil that's occurring within our community. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Ms. Jumana Saba from the Los Angeles Civil Human Rights and Equity Department.
Thank you, Omar, Hidab, Salam, everyone at the Islamic Center for bringing us together. Today, we come together to stand strong and to reaffirm that houses of worship are places of sanctity and community. Any acts of hate or threats directed towards any house of worship has no place in our city. It is truly shameful that the Islamic Center was subjected to this hateful act during a holy season for Muslims, Jews, and Christians. For this terrible incident to have taken place on Easter Sunday, a time of hope, love, and renewal of life, goes against every grain of who we are as a people. We will always stand together against any threat or act of hate directed towards any member within our communities. We at the Civil, Human Rights, and Equity Department are committed to preventing and fighting hate, no matter where it is in our city. We are committed to uplifting equity, justice, and a Los Angeles for all.
Next, we'll have Mr. Randy Dobbs from the LA Baha'i Center.
Thank you. Well, the world seems to be falling apart, but the good news is that it's coming back together again, but in different ways. These acts of hatred, prejudice, really cannot be tolerated. It has to stop. Enough, enough. This happened during the holy month of Ramadan, during the Jewish Passover, during the Holy Week leading up to Easter Sunday. I hope that every person of faith, and if you don't count yourself as a person of faith, but believe yourself to be spiritual in some way, will at least have some peaceful thoughts. And one thing that you can do to help is to have a meaningful and distinctive conversation with your neighbor about what we can do as citizens of this global city to help make things better.
Next, we'll have Father Alexi Smith.
Thank you. I'm Father Alexi. I'm the Ecumenical and Interreligious Officer for the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles. The Abrahamic faiths represented here believe in the same God. And an attack on one of our houses of worship is an attack on all of our houses of worship. The Muslim community has stood with the Archdiocese when one of our houses was defamed. We are standing here with you today. No house of worship should ever be defamed. Numerous mentions have been made of the confluence of Ramadan, Passover, and Easter. Easter for the Christians is a time of hope and recommitment. Therefore, we recommit ourselves to living that unity of which the chief spoke and others have spoken, one city for everyone.
Next, we have former city attorney, a great friend of ours, Mr. Mike Fuhrer.
Thank you very much, Omar. I want to say Assalamu alaikum to all the members of the Islamic Center and to the community at large. And that's the point in many ways. Hate crimes are directed to a particular location, but they're also directed at the entire community. Hate crimes are designed to drive division between us. And they're designed to humiliate and strike fear into the hearts of people who are being targeted. We in this city need to take this moment to stand together and to express the best of who we are. I want to thank the Islamic Center leadership not only for holding this press conference, but look at the array of people standing before you. We are reflective of what makes Los Angeles' diversity such a source of strength for all of us. Cowards desecrate houses of worship in the middle of the night and then slink away. Cowards choose to foment hate. The people of courage are the people who stand as one, unified, in solidarity with each other. You know, I recall just a few weeks ago when members of the Jewish community were targeted and shot in the Pico Robertson area, and entire communities of this city stood together. Today, here in the heart of the Muslim American community of Los Angeles, we're standing together again. Los Angeles can withstand a moment of hate if those of us who believe that we belong together and lift each other up will have the strength to stand together even more strongly now. I want to thank the Islamic Center, which was such a great partner of mine when I served as city attorney. We had an interfaith community meeting and festival right here. Of any place we could have chosen in Los Angeles, the Islamic Center's leadership, under Hidal's leadership, chose it to be right here. So let this be the epicenter of strength and unity, not the target of hate.
Finally, we will have Mr. Salam Mariotti, President of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, and then we'll open it up to questions if everybody's okay with that after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me address 3 points. Number one, what's working? What's working is that the Islamic Center of Southern California received a grant from FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, that provided extra security and cameras that was able to capture this culprit. Before, we didn't have that. Before, Muslims did not feel they were part of our society, part of the system of justice. Now, because of the people who are here, who respond for justice, who respond for human relations, who respond against hate crimes, we feel that our Islamic Center is in a good place, regardless of what people like that coward was trying to do in the middle of the night. So we have a great response. We have a strong response. We are better prepared to deal with hate crimes than we were just a few years ago. So these are the things that are working. We have our partnership with law enforcement. We have our place in the interfaith community. It really shows the strength of Los Angeles, regardless of what these cowards are trying to do against our Islamic Center. Number two, it leads us to the next phase of the work, things that are not getting the attention, which are the microaggressions, especially against Muslim students in schools and the bullying they are facing. Because of the misconceptions that are continuing throughout, unfortunately, the political process and the political discourse, that Islam does not belong in America, that Islam is against the West. And so the microaggressions against our students deserve attention, first and foremost at our leadership level, by bringing students to the forefront and having discussions. And that leads me to the third point. The convergence of Passover and Easter and Ramadan tells us one thing. All three religions talk about light against darkness. All three messengers, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, were about the word of God that was able to dissolve falsehoods. And so we see an Islam that is part of pluralism in America. We see pluralism and interfaith relations and an interfaith America as the reality of 21st century America. That is what we're striving towards. And we will be met by challenges, but because we have the people in this room that represent the diversity of America and the strength of America, we do believe that truth will prevail and justice will prevail and pluralism will prevail. Thank you.
We'll open it up for questions.
Chief, if I may, you've got members of your exam staff here. There's a huge presence of LGB. Is there a message you want to send by having this volume of folks?
Yes, well, first of all, it's a message that we're going to solve this, and I'm confident with the community's help. It's a message to the Islamic community, the faith community, that we stand with them, that we stand to protect them and to serve them, and that we are them. This is a point that, while this single incident cannot be, shouldn't outshine the beliefs, the success, the people that attend this location, the lives that they lead, that we're not going to allow any chink in the armor. We're not going to allow any type of this hate to go unaddressed and unchallenged. So it's one of, that was said, we bring awareness, we're going to bring accountability, and I look forward to the arrest of this individual with the community's help. And that's what I would ask, is that when they recognize that we're leaning forward, that we're taking this very, very seriously with resources that are scarce, we need the community's help. This individual, I am without doubt, is known to someone and someone's. It's my belief that he frequents in this area. And so we're asking the community, as it embraces the Islamic Center of Southern California as a neighbor and as a friend, to help us in this moment and help us identify this individual and bring accountability, not just to him, but as was said, this is a crime against this entire community, and it's meant to intimidate the entire community, and it's meant to suggest that our way of life can be fragmented and we can become polarized, and we will allow ourselves to go into some tribal sense of against each other. And nothing that is here shows anything of the such.
Can you just follow up with one quick
Yes.
question? Will there be enhanced or increased patrols in this area that needs to come?
Yes, there's already during this holy period for all of these three faiths, there's been added attention to our houses of worship. Whether it was a Holy Week with Christianity, the month of Ramadan, the Passover time, we're mindful of when the religious services are. As I said earlier, the commanding officer of West Bureau, Deputy Chief Blake Chow, attended services here just on Friday. I attended services on a different faith yesterday, but we also will continue to have added resources patrol this location and other houses as well. And it's not, it is because we recognize an attack on one, as was said, is an attack on all of us.
Chief, can you talk about why you believe that he is in or known in this area and why he's described as someone who is unhoused?
It was a disheveled manner in which he presented himself. His appearance is what we're basing that on. It's also based on no information that he had a vehicle, that he had anyone else with him. Is the theory we're working on. Now, the information, as the information changes, we'll change that perspective.
And why do you believe that he's known in the area or that he is in the area? Can you clarify?
Generally, individuals that are without housing frequent a relatively small walkable area from wherever they're staying. So it's again, we're working on that theory. That's why we have added officers that are working up and down canvassing this area since yesterday. And we're working to understand the unhoused population as well, to work with them. Many of them are facing terrible challenges and crises of their own. But we also know that they have no tolerance for hate either, and that they will help us identify the person responsible.
Chief, can you explain the significance of King 222 that's written on the pillars out front? Is that what this vandal calls himself?
No, we're still studying that issue. Is it a biblical reference from the Old Testament? We don't know if that's it, if it's a rambling remark, or how exactly that caricature and why it's being used. That'll be part of our continued investigation. Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Shalom, everybody. My name is Jose Harris. I'm a member of the Islamic Center. I'm also a resident within Koreatown, and I'm also somebody who's worked with Skid Row and with local people in the community alongside my fellow food pantry members. We have two over there. Well, we prepare the meals both here at the Islamic Center and at the church down the street. I have lived experience. I've been both unhoused, I've been incarcerated. And one thing I learned through life, hurt people hurt people. So if this man is unhoused, it seems like he might be hurting. So my question to you and the rest of the brothers and sisters up here, what are we doing to help hurt people, especially during this time, right? We speak about repentance, we speak about a lot of things which comes from the heart. But another thing that's important during the month of Ramadan is mercy, Rahmah. You know, so what are we doing to help the hurt people heal?
It's a great question. I think that not just during this holy period for all three faiths, where I have seen these houses open up to the surrounding community and provide services, provide needed food and shelter, and outreach and engagement. That we've also seen Mayor Bass, that one of her most pressing issues in providing for public safety and providing housing for the tens of thousands of individuals who are without shelter, is we are seeing mercy. We are seeing millions of dollars being invested in added housing and the expansion of those services, in mental health services and outreach engagement, that we're not criminalizing matters, but yet we also recognize that there are criminal matters that occur. And so we're able to untangle those as appropriate. And as I said earlier about this individual believing that the suggestion at this point, belief theory that we're working on, that he may be a local unhoused individual, is we also recognize we're not criminalizing those who are unhoused in this area. In fact, we believe, and that's part of our outreach engagement, is to those very individuals to ask them if they have information to help us identify this person. Lastly, I'll be happy to hand this off to Brian Williams, from the Deputy Mayor for Mayor Bass, or anyone else.
Yeah, the chief said it best. You know, one of the mayor's main focuses has been on housing the unhoused. But we also know this, that government alone is not going to be able to do it. It's going to take the collective effort of everyone behind me, everyone in front of me, to ensure that those who are unhoused are housed, and that the mercy seat is available for all in our community.
Any other questions? Anybody else like to say anything else from the group up here?
Chief, one. We saw last year that hate crimes are on the rise. Is there anything more that the community and LAPD could be doing to address the level of hate crimes that have been on the rise?
Well, we continue to invest in our communities to build education, build awareness, to ensure that all communities understand that for law enforcement, for LAPD, that we take this as seriously as we do. But we also need to work with our communities to help inform them as to how to counter the instances of hate and what are the contributing factors. And it was said by Salam when he spoke about the microaggression involving Muslim students, is working with our educators as well and our schools, so that we recognize that people are not born to hate. It's a learned activity. It's something that you learn to focus on these devilish statements of devaluing someone else because of some aspect of that person's existence. So it's education, it's enforcement. I'm proud to say that as a department, we lead the country in the efforts of focusing our most critical investigations, such as hate crimes, with seasoned detectives and a pursuit. I'm also proud of our U.S. Attorney, who just in the recent attacks in the Pico Union area, or Pico Robinson area, immediately filed hate crimes, federal statute hate crimes, with the arrest of the individual responsible for those two attacks. So it's a unified approach, but it's also outreach and engagement that we need to continue to pursue. So let me close. I will say one last issue. I'm looking at the stats today in regards to hate crimes in the city, and I am seeing some hope of a plateauing and some reduction, and I'll say why. Year to date, as of April 1st, overall hate crimes and instances are down compared to the same period last year. They're still higher than they were in the pre-pandemic 2018-2019 period. So what I'm saying is, as we're seeing other matters of societal sense of safety, public safety, we see violent crime that is down, we see shooting violence that is down, we see some reduction in some property crimes from the highs of the last 2 years. We are seeing them still too high from the pre-pandemic era. So it's a glimmer of hope, but it's also one that we need to recognize and use as a momentum that this is possible. We don't have to accept the status quo. Yes, sir.
Are those your LAPD?
Yes, this is for LA City in regards to this period of time versus first 3 months.
What are the numbers?
Okay, just a second.
Or we can get them afterwards.
Yeah, let me give them to you afterwards.
And then a quick question for maybe somebody else besides Chief, or unless the Chief wants to address this. I mean, how do you balance giving the publicity and the attention to the act of one person who clearly doesn't represent mainstream thought versus sending out, the impression that this is, common? You understand what I'm saying? Is there anything she might be able to stand on to?
We're good.
I mean, unfortunately, to answer your question, this is not an isolated incident. Especially at this location, this Islamic Center has in the past been attacked and vandalized, and this is one of the reasons why, as Salam mentioned, we worked with the officials to try to get a grant to beef up the security and put the cameras, because it has been in the past vandalized. There's so many countless times, sadly, where we had to come here to stand in solidarity and send a message that we're not going to allow haters to, bring us down. I mean, there is a school associated with this building, so there's an extra reason why it is critical that we send a message out to whoever has hate in his heart or in her heart to do something like this, because this impacts the morality of the whole community, of all ages, especially in this month. I mean, the time that this person came to attack, it was almost right after people have left, finishing their prayers. So imagine coming the next day and seeing such messages of hate on the walls of their Islamic Center. So whether it's one incident or 10 incidents or 100 incidents, one is one too many. And we're here all to stand and say, no, it's not acceptable. And I actually invite this person to come forward. So not just for the legal, but for this community to know that we are people of faith, and we have love in our heart, and he might be forgiven for what he did, as long as he comes forward. The last thing this community wants is to cause hurt for anyone, even when they are full of hate to do such a thing. But I'm hoping that this incident will be resolved peacefully for everybody's sake.
If I could ask one question. I'm a parent of 2 children that grew up in this community. From preschool, and I have one in San Francisco State University. I made my Shahada right here in 1985. And initially, I was very angry at the news of the vandalism. But having heard the comments from our brother here, who's doing work amongst the unhoused population, I was moved, and I'm happy to see the presence of the law enforcement, and it's clearly an act of vandalism. But I would like to think that we do have mental health experts embedded in the law enforcement, so that if this individual is suffering from mental health, that we can readily identify it and give him the help that he needs. And it's because of his comments I was moved to think along the line of mental health. So I would like to know if from the
So, Jumana Salian-Savas, City of Los Angeles Civil Human Rights and Equity Department. There are a couple of points, but I want to thank you for raising the issue around mental health, because it is definitely a resource that is much, much needed. And it is absolutely needed for healing. I think there were a few things that were raised around sort of raising the profile of hate and hate incidents and hate crime. But the reality is, as Hidab said, these are not isolated incidents. We are seeing these targeting communities across Los Angeles. We see them targeting Jewish communities, we see it targeting faith communities, Black communities, LGBT, immigrant, monolingual communities, AAPI hate, and the list goes on. We must address every single one of these incidents, whether they are amount to a crime or whether they are hate speech or a hate act. They must be addressed, and we must shine a light, because unless we do that, we're not going to be able to prevent. And I do want to say a couple of things about prevention. I think it's just wonderful to have this partnership with our faith communities, with the Islamic Center, with LAPD. I know under the leadership of Chief Moore, there has been a high priority placed on addressing hate incidents and hate crimes, but that's not enough. We really need to focus on prevention. I'll tell you that even with the high numbers we are seeing, hate incidents and hate crimes are nowhere near reported to the level that they're actually happening in communities. LAPD does take reporting on hate incidents and hate crimes. So does 311. If someone is not comfortable calling LAPD to report, you can call 311, you can call 211. And to your point about mental health and social services and resources, there is a cadre of community-based organizations providing this level of wraparound services to victims as well as to those who are perpetrating hate. The City of LA Civil Human Rights and Equity Department launched the LA for All campaign. This is a campaign that is launched in 18 languages, including Arabic, and there are a bunch of posters in the back, and I encourage you to pick those up. But you could also go to civilhumanrights@lacity.org to download these materials. Education is key. We talked about schools, that is key. Reporting is critically important. But the truth of the matter, it's all of us that we have to call it out, no matter where it is. And unless we do that, we're not going to be able to prevent it upstream. The work of our faith leaders is central to everything we do as a city and as a community, because collectively we can not only build bridges of understanding, that's the true essence of prevention. Thank you.
I actually was just gonna to build on that point. To your question, as a practical matter, it is the case that hate incidents, let alone hate crimes, are underreported in Los Angeles. That often is true because people feel reluctant to come forward. They wonder whether their complaint will be taken seriously by those who are standing here. They feel humiliated themselves and intimidated. And I want to underscore the point that even a hate incident that doesn't rise to the level of hate crime needs to be reported. And when you come forward, obviously you will be embraced, because the perpetrators of a hate incident today will become the perpetrators of hate crimes tomorrow, unless people come forward and have the courage to do that. This team is committed to assuring that no one should feel anything other than welcome and embraced when they come to make those reports.
In previous incidents, there have been cases where a person who did commit a hate crime against Muslims came to our office under the auspices of the criminal justice system, and there was a rehabilitation program, and part of it was community service. And so we do have that in mind as well. And I think the chief will be the first to tell you that we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. If a crime is committed, there needs to be an investigation, there needs to be prosecution, and so on and so forth. What to do with the larger issue, the social issues that you and the other brother brought about, let me tell you that we did get a grant from the city to do mental health in the Islamic Center. However, certain community organizations did not think that that was a good thing, and so we had to cancel it because of the pressure from other community-based organizations. So the Islamic Center of Southern California, immediately after Ramadan, is going to conduct town hall meetings, and I want you all to join us to collectively think about addressing these much more complex issues, so that we can be, as the brother said, practicing what our prophet taught us, and that is to be a mercy to humanity. How can we be merciful and at the same time respect law and order and security for our community? So we're going to conduct town halls, and I invite you to join us to think through this very important issue. So thank you.
You folks, thank you very much. I'm sure people will be available afterwards. Thank you for attending the press conference. Have a good day.